I want to do what you do. How can I get a job teaching cops? How did you get your job? These questions usually come at the end of a long day of lecturing law enforcement officers from all over the country. Those days will start pretty early. A 6 a.m. wake up, 7 a.m. headed to the training site, unpack books, get the AV to work, make sure you've sound for your presentation, and then watch the class start to roll in. 8 a.m. is the typical start time, and as the clocks tick over, it begins. Good morning. For the next 8 hours, I run my mouth. About every hour or so, I give the class a 10-minute break, and we'll take an hour for lunch. But as I tell my classes, if you think you're tired of listening to me all day, try it from this end. By the end of the day, I'm shot. Standing on the concrete floor all day while trying to make sure your students stay engaged isn't easy, and it will take a toll. When I dismiss the class, my throat is sore, my feet are killing me, and I'm starved. And I love it. That's when they come up to me, the older cops in the class, thinking ahead to retirement and wanting to have a job afterwards that they will enjoy. They want to teach for their career after law enforcement, but they're not sure how to make that happen. That's when I smile and say, here are a few things you need to do. It's time to start telling our own stories. I'm Steve Kellums, and welcome to Blue Canary. Road school. That's what my wife calls it. In 2017, we tuned into Netflix's new series Mindhunters, based on the book by John Douglas and Mark Olshaker. In the premiere episode, directed by David Fincher, the FBI agents in the series are traveling across the country and teaching police departments how to identify serious violent offenders. They called it Road School, and it stuck with my wife. By then, I'd been doing that very same thing, albeit the topic was a little different, for 17 years. She even had Bye BPD, Hello Road School, put on top of my retirement cake. My second career since my retirement didn't happen overnight. I didn't retire on Monday and then start teaching on Tuesday. Well, actually, I sort of did, but in reality, the groundwork had started 20 years earlier. In 2000, my department had a new chief. He had been the deputy chief for many years, and when he was promoted, he brought up others within the department. That meant a new deputy chief, a new captain of operations, and a new captain of administration. These new administrators, especially the operations captain, had just come off the shift as a lieutenant, and the problems that filled the patrol ranks at that time were obvious. They needed to improve the department, and they decided to make their first change with the FTO program. Our field training officer program had been a wreck. We had untrained trainers, no guidelines, no standards, and no one followed the program. Because of that, when new officers were released onto the streets, they couldn't do the basic job of a police officer. It was very frustrating, to say the least. I'd been an FTO for a number of years at that point, not because I thought the program was any good. On the contrary, I'd been complaining about it for years. But I learned early on that I loved teaching. Helping out the new officers to the best of my ability had become a passion of mine, and I took it seriously. That meant I was the longest-serving FTO at the time, so the captain of operations called me into his office. I need you to find me a new FTO program. Ours sucks. Yes, sir, I replied. That was the moment I got my first FTO training. I signed up for a regional class for FTO, and it was eye-opening. I never realized how much I was doing wrong until that class. After that, I signed up for another, and another. If there was an FTO program and somebody was teaching how to run it, I was there. I also joined the National Association of Field Training Officers. I had never heard of the organization until I started taking classes, but as soon as I found out it existed, I signed up and started going to the conferences. I would also spend time on the phone, calling all of the bigger agencies in my area, asking to get copies of their FTO programs. It was a lot of work. Over the course of about 6 months, I exhausted all the training I could find. And I then started writing, or should I say copying and replacing. I took all of those great ideas and incorporated them into a new and exciting FTO program. Well, not really. It was a basic San Jose program with a few modifications that I'd found and really liked. By August, we had ourselves a new FTO program. But the most important thing I had learned over those 6 months was that the real issue at our department was lack of training. I asked the captain if I could run a week-long training class for the rest of the FTOs on our department to make sure they were up to speed and that we were all on the same page when it came to training. He gave me the okay, And that really started everything. I put together a basic FTO class for the FTOs, and in the late summer, I ran my very first FTO training. I honestly don't remember how it went, but I do know that it went well enough that I ran a second class in January of 2001 for the next batch of new FTOs at my department. Soon, I was getting phone calls from the other agencies in my county asking if they could send officers over to my FTO school. Fast forward another couple of years, and I was running 2 FTO classes every year at my agency with officers from all over South Central Indiana in attendance. I then started getting calls from agencies in Northern Indiana asking if I would come up and teach classes. That's when I started my own training company. It was an LLC I put together for tax purposes, and I started running 6 or 7 training classes a year across Indiana. It was a nice little side gig, and I was getting better with every class I taught. During this time, I was also heavily involved in NAFTO, and I was teaching classes at the NAFTO National Conference on a regular basis. Then along came Reggie. Chief Reggie Redfern is the owner of SRR Training in the New England area, and a few friends at the department introduced me to him. Chief Redfern was getting some questions from the agencies in New England about FTO, and after a short conversation, he decided to hire me and bring me out to Massachusetts. Reggie was my first national training gig, and I learned a lot traveling 1,000 miles away to teach a class. After Reggie, Herm Clark with LEORTC, a regional training company in Michigan, reached out looking for FTO training, and I was starting to find my plate full. I was getting to a point where I was spending more than half of my vacation days at the department, traveling and teaching classes. While it could get a little taxing at times, I was still loving it. I really appreciated the opportunities to see how other agencies functioned and solve their problems. It helped me look at my own agency and how it was performing in the grand scheme of things. That's about the time Matt Moulter hit me up for a meeting. Matt helped me start this podcast and has been a great friend throughout the process. At the time, Matt was running Agency 360, his FTO software company, and we would talk at length about training, culture, and how to help agencies get better. We had also been discussing creating a new FTO organization that would better serve the individual FTOs across the country. So when he asked me to meet him, I didn't think anything of it. A nice drive to Indianapolis where we would grab lunch and talk sounded great. A few days before we were supposed to meet, I received a calendar invite with a new address. I didn't look that closely and just plugged the address into my GPS as I headed out for the meeting. To say I was surprised when I found myself pulling into the offices of the largest public safety training company in the United States is an understatement. I had taken dozens of courses over the years with this company, but I couldn't think for the life of me why Matt wanted to meet there. I was also dressed very casually with jeans and a t-shirt. I did have my suit jacket hanging in the back of the car, so I quickly grabbed that and put it on, hoping I would look a little more professional. But in the end, I probably just looked like a lost hipster tool. Sitting in a meeting with Matt and Jim Alsop, the owner of the training company, was surreal. I was having trouble figuring out why I was there. They would be discussing options for FTO training and certifications, and I would chime in occasionally as the expert. That's when Jim said something I will never forget. He looked at me and spoke. "After your class in April, we can see what the feedback is and decide if we want to put together an actual certification." It took me a minute to catch on. I didn't have a class scheduled for April. I wasn't sure what he was talking about. "Jim, do you want me to teach for you?" I stuttered. He just broke into his big trademark smile and said, "Well, yes, that's what this whole meeting is about," and laughed. From that moment on, my career after the cop job was set. I had almost another decade before I retired, but the experience, relationships, and friends I had made at road school had set me up. I was always going to have that to fall back on. From that experience, I've learned some important lessons that I share every time an officer comes up to me after class, wanting to know how to do what I do.
The Legal Liability Risk Management Institute is the nation's largest provider of liability and risk management services in the United States. Our goal is to help reduce liability, reduce lawsuits, and enhance officer performance. Regardless of the size of your agency, we have a risk management solution. You may contact us at www.llrmi.com or call 317-386-8325.
First, accept responsibility whenever it is offered. The only way you'll grow is to push yourself to the breaking point. When opportunities arise in your life, you must be in a position to take advantage of them and not afraid to try. I could have easily told my captain that I wasn't interested in putting together a new FTO program. It was a lot of work, and I spent countless unpaid hours typing and organizing, copying and pasting, and brainstorming. At the time, I didn't receive any compensation from my agency for doing it. I'm not sure that they even said thank you. Although to be fair, a few years after I got the program up and running, the department did nominate me for the Monroe County Officer of the Year award. If I would have turned them down, I would have never been able to do what I'm doing now. Second, become a subject matter expert. You have got to know your stuff. If you're going to make a living providing training to public safety officers, it's going to take more than just going through the motions. You are going to have to take every class you find. And by taking classes, I just don't mean sitting in the back and playing Candy Crush on your phone. I mean you're going to have to dive into the material, read it all, ask the questions, and then dig deeper. You're going to have to go to the source material and read it, find out where it came from, who started it, and most importantly, why they started it. Staying on top of your chosen topic is going to become a consuming part of your life. Third, start now. You can't wait until you're about to retire and start trying to put together a training portfolio. You'll need years, if not decades, of preparation to make it all work. You're going to need references, people who have taken your classes and agencies who have been satisfied with your product that people can call. You will need to build that trust and confidence in your customers that when they have questions, you have the answers. Fourth, build relationships. Look for established training companies that you can work for and with to help get your name out in the public. Even if you plan to run your own training business, it is hard to get those first customers. So working with a company that has been around and already has name recognition is important. On top of that, look for professional organizations that you can work with. Professional organizations are always looking for qualified presenters, and it's a great way to get your foot in the door on a national level to start teaching small breakout sessions at conferences. Fifth, get good. Never pass up an opportunity to practice your craft. I have known far too many instructors who had a great grasp of the topics they were teaching, but were terrible teachers. Teaching is a skill and one that requires practice. Once you get your topic down, start working on your presentations. As a professional instructor, you'll need to learn how to present your information to a wide audience. You will need to learn to communicate in an engaging manner and how to answer questions, hard questions that are asked by your students. You have to be prepared for when students decide to argue with you, and you must understand how to manage a classroom. These are not easy skills to learn, but they are skills you must learn if you want to be successful. Sixth, never forget it's a business. If you plan to make money at this, you can't forget that it's a business, and you will have to treat it as such. Make sure you have all of your paperwork in order. That might mean hiring an attorney to make sure your business paperwork is correct and hiring an accountant to make sure you are managing the monies and paying the taxes. Please don't forget to pay your taxes. And if you're like me, you'll find yourself overwhelmed with the desire to help. You will want to help officers and agencies, and you will find yourself giving discounts and cutting people deals. If you're not careful, they will take advantage of you. Remember that the individual people who run these agencies are well-intentioned and are trying the best with what they have. But at its core, all police departments are bureaucracies. I'm always reminded of the Tommy Lee Jones quote from the movie U.S. Marshals. He said, "People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it." Well, that just about sums it up for bureaucracies. So don't be surprised when you have to send them 30, 60, and 90-day notices about payment. Don't be surprised when they contract you for a job and then contract a competitor for the same job and expect you to work with them for no money. Don't be surprised when they call you 2 days before the class and cancel, even though you've already made airfare and hotel arrangements. The key to this is to never forget, it's a business. Working as a public safety trainer after a long career as a cop is very fulfilling. You get to keep your toes in the game without having to do all the heavy lifting. You get to hang out with and talk to people just like you. You get to make great friends. And if you do it right, you get to make a difference at more than just one agency. Road school is a hell of a career after the career. And I have to admit, I'm loving every minute of it. And that's the story we have to tell. Thank you for joining. As always, I'm curious what questions you're getting asked. What isn't the news covering? What story needs to be told? Connect with me at bluecanarypodcast@gmail.com.